Hello, and thanks for tuning in to hear a conversation today with the one and only Peter Martin, international soccer commentator and radio and TV show host. Delighted to have Peter. I've known Peter for over 30 years. Excited to welcome him. He shares some of his experiences, insights, and reflections with our global community. My name is Eric McAleer, and I'm the General Manager of Worldstrides Sports Division. Just to give a quick snapshot of Peter's journey, he's been involved in Scottish football for over 20 years, initially starting in the radio before transitioning over to TV and being a lead reporter for STV. After rising through the ranks to become the head of sport at Radio Clyde, Peter made the jump to be a freelance reporter and now runs the highly successful PLZ Soccer and co-hosts the Football Phone-In and Central FM with Alan Ruff. Peter, that was quite an intro. Welcome and great to see you. How are you?
I just feel like, Eric, as if my life just passed me by there. It's over now. I should announce my retirement. I just lived about 30 years there in two minutes of an intro.
Peter, let me start. This is 30 years going back. Number one, where has 30 years gone? And where's, I think back to those two guys that met down in the dungeon at Fookie's nightclub in Glasgow. And here we are in this journey, 4,000 miles apart, having an interactive chat about the game of football.
Well, it's fantastic for me because, quite simply, Eric, I can remember your cheeky face. You didn't have a beard. The hair was much darker. Of course, you were maybe a few pounds lighter, as we all were. But I have to say, it was great for me because I used to DJ in clubs in Glasgow. I can always hear my mum saying, "That's not a proper job. You can't be a DJ." And I thought, well, it's helping me while I study to try and get into journalism. So it was great for me. It was great. I met so many people that I'm still friendly with today.
Yeah. And it's funny, Peter, because in the last 2 days, and I'm going to give you a flashback here, we've had David Moyes and we've had Tony Ashgar on. And when I say those two names to you, what game does that immediately make you think of?
Well, I have to say, when you mentioned David, the only thing that I keep thinking of is an old red Audi that we all bundled into to
go to the World Cup.
To go to the World Cup, honestly. I mean, it's the one thing that sticks in my head every time. And David, who's, I think we're all proud of him because we're friends with him. But, when you look back to those days and you could see him working at his trade at Shrewsbury and climbing the ladder. I mean, it's just fantastic to see him. But I have to say, some of the laughs were magnificent. Even
some of the laughs. And I distinctly remember waving you off to the World Cup, Peter, and you were in this Audi. And if I remember right, you probably paid about £1,000 for the Audi, top to bottom. And you all piled into the Audi. And this thing, I think it's 3 wheels. And you drove it the length and breadth of Europe to get to the World Cup.
It was magic, and the great thing about it was a German car. Although it was a wreck, we knew it was going to get us there, Eric. It's as simple as that. It's £1,000 well spent, I have to say.
and I think one of my greatest memories, when I think back to you and I's history, we all went in that minibus back in '96, Euro '96, and not even to the Scotland-England game, but I don't know if you remember this, but the night before we went to Croatia versus Italy at Villa Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think the great thing about it, I mean, I always laugh with some of the guys when we all get together, and I mentioned to some people up here who cannot believe it, we followed football for the love of the game. Yeah. We would go and watch other games, other teams. The fact that David Moyes was able to get his tickets from the Azerbaijan FA was neither here nor there. Well, we're still going to see.
And we ended up on the wrong end.
Absolutely, and that's the thing about it. I mean, I can still see Paul Gascoigne flicking the ball up over Colin Hendry's head and putting it in. There's all these England fans around us, and we're thinking, "Oh no!" But no, that's.
I remember the Friday night like yesterday, and so I mentioned that game, Croatia versus Italy, and it was at Villa Park, and it was me and you and Tony Ashgar and David Moyes Senior, and I remember going to the game, and this is something that distinctly I remember like yesterday. And I remember the back four of Italy. I don't know if you remember it. So the back four of Italy that night was Bergomi, Costa Curta, Baresi, and Maldini. That is a pretty darn impressive back four.
It's not bad when you consider Bergomi was an Inter Milan legend, an legend. The other three are in what you would consider three of the greatest sides ever to be put together for AC Milan, and you'd be hard pressed to take Costa Curta, Baresi, Maldini out of the three sides.
Oh, I know. And that was just a random game because we were staying in Preston the night before we drove down to Wembley the next day, and it was a random game. We thought, let's get tickets and we'll go along and watch, and again, that's 24, 25 years ago, and I remember it like yesterday. And then obviously the game at Wembley, again, I remember that like yesterday. We were, I remember the emotions of us winning the penalty kick 1 minute before half time, and we all jumped up. And Gary McAllister, the ball moved, and before you know it, it's changed the rest of our 4-day weekend, Peter.
Isn't it amazing that Gary McAllister, when I was going to school, I would rush down at 5 to 9 in the village where we were brought up, and I'd rush down, and if I missed the bus to go to school, Gary, who was such a good player, he could have been a professional golfer, he was that good.
Yeah.
He had a choice of 2 careers, and he would come round in this car that he could afford because he'd signed for Motherwell. Yeah. And he used to just come round to the bus stop and he'd say, "Come on, Pedro, I'll run you to school." And the two of us used to play football, but he was way, way ahead of me. He was a different class of midfielder, and a great credit to Scotland.
And what a career he's had. And just to jump onto that, Peter, you grew up in your early days just outside of Motherwell. Was that, and one of the things that always stood out with you and I was, and even to this day, just your passion and love for the game. Was that when it all started in your early days in the Motherwell area?
Yeah, because we had so many good players, so many great players, and a thriving football community. And you wanted to be able to be, everybody wanted to be a footballer, absolutely. My heroes growing up were Kenny Dalglish and Danny McGrain. So you wanted to be a footballer. For me, I'd love to have played for Celtic or Liverpool because Dalglish was everything to me. Yeah. But, at the end of the day, in a strange sort of way, Eric, I've been lucky. I had the chance to, on numerous occasions, play junior football. And then, would you believe it, because of getting into journalism, and my big friend was Tam Burns as well, and Moisey, I was able to go and play with lots of people that I used to idolise. Yeah. So it was a joy. I'd play football with my mates, play organised football as well, but then go and play these games with guys that I just idolise, and some of them, you've had them on your show. Oni Coyle, I used to play with Oni, and it was great.
Peter, I'm going to put you on the spot now, so and I'm digressing here a little bit because Big Kenny Brannigan tells me about this infamous five-a-side team that you play on. And Kenny does tell me that you're still an impact player, Peter.
Well, the funny thing about these guys is they take 1 and 2 touch. So if you take more than 2 touches, you haven't got the ball anymore. It's unbelievable. And I kid you not, one day I walked up, Eric, and the five-a-side is every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Now, the Monday game is for the lesser players. Wednesday morning and Friday, I turned up one day, and I kid you not, this was the lineup. They had Ian McCall, Paul Hartley, Neil Lennon, James McFadden, Chris Sutton. It was unbelievable. And I looked, and I had a look at the 12 players that had turned up, and I thought, wow, thank God Ian McCall's turned up, or I'd be last pick.
But again, you can move in that circle, Peter. That just tells you the journey you've been on. And I think to your point there as well, I think back to growing up in the Glasgow area. I grew up in Clydebank, and I feel blessed and privileged to have grown up in Glasgow, because of the football culture, the players of that era. I remember going to Hampden for all the big Scotland games. I remember the game we beat Spain at Hampden. I remember, I was a Scotland diehard at that time. And you think back to the Hansen, the Souness, the Dalglish, the Stevie Nicol, the Gary Gillespie, the Maurice Johnson, the Charlie Nicholas. We were blessed and privileged to grow up in the west of Scotland at that time.
Oh, unbelievable. At the end of the day, when you think about the players that were coming through, and they were actually just going out, playing football non-stop. If they weren't playing for their local team, they were playing for their school team. They'd then go and play for somebody in another organised game. Some of them would fit in 3 games in a day. So they worked at their craft. And we sometimes, I think in Scotland now, we sound like a broken record that annoys people. But from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, right through just to, there was a cut-off point in the 90s. But these kids coming through, we took it for granted that we would always have great players, technical players. And I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I thought Scotland qualified for major tournaments all the time.
That was run of the mill, Peter. And you mentioned it earlier. I had a soft spot for Liverpool growing up, purely because of their Scottish backbone. as they had Gillespie, they had Hansen, they had Stevie Nicol, they had Souness, they had Dalglish, and prior to that there was the Bill Shankly, and I always had a soft spot for Liverpool during that era as well. It was kind of my English team.
Yeah, absolutely. Liverpool was fantastic. When Dalglish moved down there, I used to go down and watch them as well. I was very lucky to get the chance to go down to Anfield to see Dalglish. Absolutely idolised him. And we've had him on our show on 2 or 3 occasions. Ruffy, Alan Ruff, who's a former Scotland international, who's my sidekick, he gets slightly scared of him because Kenny's got a really dry sense of humour. Yeah. But as far as a playing career is concerned, he was magnificent at Celtic, but I always remember the English press saying nobody can replace Keegan. Keegan was the god for them, the number 7, nobody could replace him. Kenny went down there, scored against Middlesbrough. Within 3 weeks they'd completely forgotten about Kevin Keegan, and Dalglish from there on in was just incredible.
And see, as you mentioned, Ruffy, number 1, Peter, is I watched your show today, and I was really impressed with the fact that he still slipped into his 1978 goalie jersey today. That was impressive that he could do that in the yellow. But secondly, what a great fit he is for you. The partnership and combination that you've got, Peter, is fantastic.
Well, it's great because I kind of lose the plot. When we were building this whole company, he's so laid back, Eric. He doesn't get there at anything. He just saunters through life, and all the adversity or setbacks that he's had, he doesn't care. He's so easygoing. He went actually out to play at Orlando, and when he was out there in America for a year, he's sitting by the pool in Orlando with George Best, and he tells you this story as if it's just a wee guy from round the corner, and you're saying, tell me more. You were playing with George Best. Doesn't get any better. And he reigns off so many world stars that he played with in big games. And the thing about him is he's the kindest person ever. And he said to me, look, I know we've just started this partnership, he said, but it's your birthday, so I got you a present. And Eric, he handed over to me his jersey that he wore for Scotland in the Maracanã in front of 140,000 people. Yeah. Scotland against Brazil.
Yeah. And that tells you.
They're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable.
That tells you everything, Peter. It is a funny story here. And, he played in that league back in the day. And that was when, Georgie Best and Pele and Beckenbauer and, all of them were playing. It's funny, I've been on couple of different soccer conventions around the country, and I bumped into a random American, this is a couple of years ago, and having small talk about Scotland, and he says to me, you don't know Alan Ruff, do you? He says, I used to be a huge fan of the old North American Soccer League. He said he was my hero, and he certainly left an impact because, and I've listened to your shows as well, Peter, about the potential move that he nearly got to England, he nearly made, he was very, very close. He played at very, very top level. And, when you move Alan Ruff to today, Alan Ruff would be an English Premier League goalkeeper.
Oh, and by the way, it not only would be an English Premier League goalkeeper, he would have had the strength of character at a time when players have the power now to actually go. He could have gone to one of the top clubs. Yeah. I mean, he's standing in the tunnel with the likes of Kenny Dalglish, Graham Souness, Alan Hansen, and he is on £100 a week. Yeah. They, meanwhile, are on big bucks at Liverpool. So he would have gone for a big amount of money. And, of course, let's not forget, here's a guy who can brag that he went out with Miss Scotland, Miss United Kingdom, and a couple of movie stars to boot. I don't want to name them for legal reasons, but he had a great life. I don't feel sorry for him, Eric.
The boy's done good. The boy's done good, Peter. And the thing for me is I'm so impressed by your journey, and you and I have always stayed close. And look at where your media company is going today, especially where we are in this virus. I'm sure your company's doing so well. But, taking it back a few years, give us an insight to how you got started and who your early mentors and role models were as you started out in your journey, Peter.
Well, I was quite lucky because, would you believe, I started out, when I remember you in the night, we'd see each other at nightclubs. I started out in a small station in Galashiels in Borders doing rugby, would you believe? Yeah. To cut your teeth, moved up to Edinburgh, had a great news editor who wanted me to do news as well. He wanted me to be a news journalist, but I always wanted to do the football. My great pals over there were John Robertson, who scored 27 derbies for Hearts against Hibs, and Darren Jackson, and I still retain the friendship with him to this day. But because I had the life in the west of Scotland and lived in the east, I had the best of both worlds. So when STV came calling and I was able to go through there, you know, I had guys like, we had a journalist through here, which is probably like, I'm trying to think of the big ones in America, but Jerry McNee just basically said to me when I joined STV, you're not getting on the show unless you get a story.
Right.
So basically, as a journalist, my game was to chase as many people as I could. I had to basically chase for stories and get big interviews. That was the key for me. So that was the best way to cut my teeth. And that's helped this company to this day, because you can be the best writer in the world, but if you can't get anybody to answer their phone to speak to them, you're in trouble. So build up your contacts, build up your relationships with people, and then from there be able to write a story or tell a story. So from there, from STV and the radio as well, I was able to develop as a presenter, a commentator. And the best advice I could give to anybody, and and it's in life in general, it's a baseball analogy, and it's the best one that sticks in my mind forever for any kid who's out there. Load the bases. Make sure you take on as much skill as you can. Suck up as much information from people that you admire and respect, and try and have as many skills as possible. You will get the sack. You will be laid off. You will lose a job. There's nothing that will nobody can say they'll have a job for life. But if you've got all these skills, it gives you a better chance of getting jobs elsewhere. And that's what I did. I sucked up every bit of skill I could to make sure I could commentate, to make sure I could write, to make sure that I could present. And then over and above that, I learned how to edit. I learned how, I made a point of actually building the skills, and then hopefully with the personality, have the ability to make friendships that would, be able to connect with other people. Because as you well know, if you meet a David Moyes might have 5 numbers of people that he can put in your way that builds up a network. And that's what journalism is all about. And that's what life's all about.
I love it, Peter. And one thing that David Moyes said to us yesterday, which always stood with me, with yourself as well, is, his first response was talking about his work ethic and his hard work. Irrespective of where he's gone in his journey, he's still one of the hardest working managers out there. And I see that with yourself. All those years that I've known you, watching you build your media company, watch you lead from the front, watch you, be the foremost, company in Scotland in that space. But you've always been a hard worker, Peter.
Yeah, I think you've got to do that. And the other thing about it as well, which is the key element here as well, you're watching the opposition and you're watching what everybody's doing. I think the best bit of advice, and I've stuck to it, is quite simply keep driving for yourself. Don't get obsessed by what the opposition are doing. By all means, if you look at somebody and they're doing something really well, yes, you can take what they're doing and try and implement it yourself. But have a vision, have a goal, stick to it, keep going at it, and let them look and see, wow, this guy's hungry. This guy wants to build something. This guy is still able to, get the working trousers on and go to the coal face and still do it as well. I have no qualms about phoning people, chasing stories, presenting a show, going out and commentating. All the basic foundations that I was given when I was a young journalist, I use to this day. My daughter's 10. She said, "Dad, can you help me with my homework?" And I go, yeah, because I've never really left school. I just have to work harder at it. So I might as well help you with your arithmetic as well.
But I think as well, to that point, Peter, when you look at where you are in your journey just now, is I look at you at the very forefront of the space, and and I think what keeps you going? What excites you? What continually motivates you to be the best in that space? To at the end of the day, it's a competitive landscape, and you want to be the best. And as you say, a fantastic point. You don't spend a lot of time looking behind you or looking in the wing mirrors. You're so focused on looking what's ahead, the vision, the strategy, and you're kind of leading the troops, so to speak.
Yeah, well, what keeps me going is the fact that the most important thing in life is about your family. It's your family, it's your friends. That's the most important thing. You want to protect your family. You want to build a secure future for your kids if you're lucky enough to have them. So from my point of view, first and foremost, the drive and ambition is to build something that sets, my daughter up for many a year. The drive and ambition with the job is I can hear my mother echoing in my ear is, you're not digging up roads, son. You're not out in the snow clearing it. Go there and work hard at a job. You're being paid to watch football. For God's sake, it doesn't get any better. It's like Michael Jordan. I'm watching The Last Dance at the moment, which is this documentary series on the Chicago Bulls. And he was driven every day, wanted to be the best, wanted to push on. And that's what drives me on. I'm the underdog. We don't have the millions of Sky. We don't have the millions of BT. We can't compete with the BBC, who get the taxpayers' money and more often than not are unaccountable. They can make dross and get away with it. Yeah. I've got to work in a market where I'm hoping that people will watch your show. If they watch your show, we've got a chance. So what I've got to do with the budget that we have is try and take on the big boys. And if we can do that, we're halfway there. And that's what drives me on. I love being the underdog, Eric.
Of course you do. And you always did, Peter. And, the thing about The Last Dance and Michael Jordan, I've been engrossed by it. Absolutely love it. And Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen helped make Michael Jordan. And you look at the role of Scottie Pippen and, is you've got a lot of Scottie Pippens around you. You've built a fantastic team. It looks to me like you've built, we use this word constantly. It looks to me like you've got a great culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason for that, and we've got a guy that I signed, and I've known him for well over 30 years. We were pals when we were younger, Barry Ferguson. Barry Ferguson played for Rangers. Now, in our area in the west of Scotland, where there's a divide between Protestants and Catholics, I was lucky enough from a young age. I went to live in America for a time, witnessed racism, came back over to the east of Scotland, witnessed all sorts of things, people suffering from bigotry and whatever. Barry Ferguson and I, get on great. He joined our company. He's a former Rangers captain, Scotland captain. He could have gone to any other of the big companies. They've all been courting him. And he said, I'm not leaving. I want to stay here with your team. I love the banter. Yeah. I just love the fact that we all feel comfortable with each other. Tam McManus played for Hibs. Alison McConnell is a 20-year great journalist. Hugh MacDonald, respected journalist in the game. Darren Jackson played for Hearts, Hibs, Celtic, won the title with Celtic. All of these people have something at the core. Yeah. They want to enjoy their job. They want to work with people they respect. Money might not be the driving force, and I'd love to, we have a standing joke about it, I'd love to actually be able to pay them more money. But what we do is we turn around and we say, we're having a Christmas night out. We're having they'll say to me, can we have a Christmas night out again? I said, it's February. And they go, let's have another one, because we've got a great team spirit and we all battle for each other. And that's the key to it. And the other thing about it, Gary, because you know better than anything when you're building a company, treat people with a bit of decency, treat other people.
Look at you, that must give you so much pride, Peter, as the leader, as the front man, as but not only pride, it still puts some pressure on your shoulders, because you're the captain of the team, you're the CEO, you're the guy that drives the vision, the strategy, but also your teammates and your team members, especially through this coronavirus and some other things, they're looking for the captain, they're looking for the CEO, they're looking for you to stick your chest out and lead from the front.
Yeah, very much so. And the funny thing about it is, you'd never believe this, Eric, when we were building the company, obviously from my point of view, I had to be able to write the script for the show. I had to then go and source the guests. I had to make sure that we had the technology that could get us on. I knew the way technology was going, with the phones, with the apps, with the YouTube, with people on the internet, how they're going to consume football, how they're going to consume sports. Yeah. But I didn't have the millions to do it quickly. Yeah. But what I did was I said to myself, okay, organically, we will try and grow. And try and move forward. I can remember Ruffy and I going into a guy, and I won't mention the company, but we played five-a-sides with him, and he was the member of a big restaurant company, and we said to him, we don't have any viewers, we've got no listeners, we don't have a programme yet. Any chance you can give us £5,000 a month and we'll go and make a programme for you? And he looked at the two of us and he said, okay, since it's you, go and do it. And then from there we had to work out, how do we spend 5,000 and build all these wee things a month to take us up the ladder? So yes, lead from the front, but lead by example as well. There's no point in having a captain's armband if you can't take the ball in and show everybody else how to play with it.
Yeah, you're so right, Peter. And just the last couple of questions here. It excites me always watching your journey, Peter. I think my question here is, what's next? What's down the line? What excites you for the next project? Because I know you personally is you don't like to rest on your laurels. You don't like to sit in status quo. You like to continue the journey.
Yeah, well, listen, remember this, and this is the key element of everything that we do. It doesn't matter where the technology goes. If the content that you're putting out is rotten and rubbish, nobody watches it, you're dead. Yeah. So you've got to make sure the content's there. We want to do music festivals. We want to do arts festivals. We want to make programs like car programs or travel programs or whatever. But the key element here is the nature of the industry is changing, Eric. Yeah. Well, there are deals and big deals with maybe NBC, CBS, Sky, BBC. While they're all striking their deals, you have a company in Europe and America called DAZN. Yeah. And DAZN basically give everybody the chance to buy one game for a tenner. If you can't get to Anfield, you can go and buy their game and watch it whenever you want, wherever you are in the world. The whole thing is changing. And for me, it's great because it gives us the chance to make programs and try and beat the living daylights out of the big boys. Now, I might be naive. The big boys might come in and squash us and buy us or whatever. But right now, the journey that we're on, we want to make the best content we can. We want to get it out to the biggest platform of people and hopefully make something that's natural and authentic, not something fabricated that people think, I don't really like what they're doing. We've got to try and be authentic. We do it with Scottish football. I'd love to do it in a bigger scale with other sports, and I'd love to be able to get back to doing commentary as part of our vision, because being out at live sports there's nothing better. It's brilliant.
And that was... I think back to many games and many times through the years, you were in your zone there, and I think of some of the highlights of your journey and some of the big games and some of the commentaries. That was probably your cup final as an individual, as a person going through your journey, I'm sure, Peter. And we could sit and go back and forth over some of the games, but I'm sure when you think back to some of those highlights, that gives you a buzz.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the reason why I'm not commentating now, I went down and commentated on games down for TalkSport in England as well, flying down every Saturday, because I wanted to commentate. The reason why I'm not doing it in Scotland now is because the BBC has a monopoly on the radio. You can't get in anywhere. Yeah. Commercial radio has died as far as allowing people to commentate on football. They don't do it. Yeah. So you're very limited. But the one thing I loved about it was going out to a game anywhere in Europe. Rangers are all the way. I followed them all the way through to the UEFA Cup final, commentated on their games. Celtic's journey to Seville in 2003, commentated on them all. Watched John Hartson hit a 20-yard screamer into the roof of the net to knock Liverpool out. Doesn't get any better. Watched Rangers in the semi-finals and win a penalty shootout to reach the UEFA Cup final in Manchester. And, of course, the ultimate for me, go to the Parc des Princes, see the Tartan Army able to buy tickets in every area, see us get battered for 89 minutes by a world-class French team, and then watch James McFadden hit it from 35 yards into the roof of the net to succor them in the Parc des Princes. Does it get any better? A small nation of 5 million beats a nation of 50 million. That's why I love commentary, Eric.
And that's probably one of your iconic moments, I'm sure, Peter. When you think back to, you get excited just at the thought of that right now. But I'm sure that's one of your iconic moments through the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one girl phoned into a radio phone in at the time. She says, I always love that commentary. She says, because that's the commentary I got pregnant to. And I thought, wow. I didn't really think commentary did that for people, but she got excited. I wasn't there in the room with her. It was her husband, but I'm delighted that she mentioned that to us. We smiled and laughed heartily at it. But it is a job where you paint a picture, you get excited, you enjoy the football. And I couldn't care whether it was James McFadden in the Parc des Princes or someone scoring for East Stirling. Because you love football, if it's a great goal in East Stirling, it's a great goal in the Parc des Princes. That's why I loved it.
It doesn't get any better. Well, Peter, this was an absolute pleasure. We just rolled 30 years into 30 minutes there, and just to roll back the years, thinking of that little guy standing on the side of the street in Motherwell, and that budding young DJ down in the basement of Fuki's. I get a lot of pride just watching your journey, Peter, and I smile every day when I check in on your show, and just so much pride watching you go through this journey with so much passion, and just a pleasure being with you today, Peter.
Yeah, listen, I've enjoyed it, Eric. It's great to be back with you. I wish you every success with Worldstrides Sports. It's absolutely magnificent. And the good thing about it is not a lot of people know every time you conduct these interviews that you haven't told them about your love of a flock of seagulls and how you used to model yourself on them. But I'm sure that will come out in further...
I'm going to share the picture, Peter. That's coming.
I know it is. Listen, you're a gem. I wish you every success.
Love it. Thanks so much, Peter. Be safe. Take care.
Take care to you as well.
All the best, mate.